Today we're going to do an STR Spotlight on a property that I just saw the other day. This is at 42585 Buckeye Road. So you can see we've got chalet styling. There's some wood beam ceilings and the interior is got that cabin feel. The home is a bit older. It's not bad though, and at the end of this video I'll do the walkthrough so you kind of have a sense for the flow. You can see the kitchen has been updated in terms of the countertops. The cabinets are a bit dated, so obviously kitchen remodel could be one of the things you consider. You'll notice carpeting throughout the bedroom areas, for example. Some of that carpeting is pretty worn. So this house is definitely, like I said, on the older side and could use some updating. But the price point is good. And we are going to dive into the numbers before I show you the tour. And so you can see the potential for the home. It is in this region here, which is considered Yosemite Forks. It's on the north end of town, which positions it a little closer to Yosemite. So you can see Oakhurst down here, Bass Lake to the west, and Yosemite Forks here is on the north end of town, certainly before Sugar Pine or Fish Camp or the actual entrance to the park. But it's actually in a pretty good location, like I said, on the north end of town. So 3-bedroom, 2-bath. 1,800 square feet. Recently had a price decrease. Only been on the market for 19 days, so fairly fresh listing. But let's jump into the numbers and take a look and see if this one makes sense. You can see that this is an Oakhurst submarket score of 79, which is on the high end. I think they used to grade these. They might give this a B- or something like that. But average annual revenue of $62,000, occupancy of 54%, pretty decent average daily rate. So you combine all that and you've got a RevPAR of 189. You can also see from these graphs that your occupancy rate is definitely going to be skewed towards the summer. And I am going to jump into that a little bit to show you how we can mitigate the seasonality a bit. So one thing I didn't go into is this is actually a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, but this bottom area here is essentially a separate 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit, and the top can be rented as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath unit. So you've got the option of renting it as a 3-2 in the high season when your occupancy is higher and your rates are higher. And as you move into the shoulder season or the off season, you can divide it up, rent these as 2 separate units. And let me just show you a little bit of the effect of that. So if we look at the revenue, you can see here, again, the seasonality I discussed for Oakhurst in general. February low point of 3.2 thousand, July 8.2. Pretty big swing. But now we see the revenue by bedroom count. So let's just eliminate 6, 5, and 4. So what do you notice here? So our peak revenue clearly is going to be in July, $8,400 for a 3-bedroom house, $5,900 for a 2-bedroom, $4,200 for a 1-bedroom. You can see that you're going to do a little better in general renting the unit separately, but that effect is even more pronounced in January, February. So you basically don't have as steep a fall off in the off season for the smaller units. So the recommendation would be set your booking windows so that guests can rent at a higher price the full house farther ahead. Then shorten your booking window as you move closer to the check-in date and allow them to book the smaller units. So you can maximize your revenue that way. But like I said, it's important to see the effect of bedroom count on seasonality. So let me just jump back here and let's put in the specific address. So we saw that was an average for the whole market, but if we plug in 42585 Buckeye Road, that pops up here. It defaulted to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for some reason. So let's bump that up to 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and probably can figure out a way to accommodate 8 guests. So now you're at 48,000 a year. Occupancy is about the same for the average for the area, but the average daily rate is a bit lower. But what I want to show you here is what comps are actually even being used. So one thing that you notice is that it's pulling comps from quite a distance away. It's really not focused in the neighborhood. We see a little bit better performing comparable property here at 66,000, which is above the area average. But again, this is the range. But I wanted to also show you that you can actually customize those comps. So what we would do before you actually made an offer is look at the entire area. These are the 15 comps that it identified. We would drill down and look at some of these, in particular the high performers and the low performers, to make sure that our comp set is really coming up with an accurate picture. And when you jump into one of these comps, let's say we pick this one, which is again quite a distance away, pull that up, and then we can actually go to the specific Airbnb listing. So this is where you can drill down into the comparable properties and read the reviews. And if you're looking at a comp that's in the same neighborhood, you can get a sense for how did guests feel about the drive to the listing, the neighborhood, etc. So this is just showing you a little bit how you can manage the specific comps for your listing as you consider whether or not this is the right property for you. But the other thing I want to show you is if we go back to the market overview again. Right now we haven't selected any amenities, and I've talked about this in some of my other videos, but you know, right now something on the order of 20% or less of all listings have hot tubs. So what I want you to do is see what happens to our projected revenue if we simply say, yeah, we're going to add a hot tub. So that 62,000 jumps up to 92,000. Now, again, you'd have to do the same exercise, and this is just a very quick back of the envelope look. But when you add that amenity and see your average rate jumps up, that definitely represents an opportunity. And if you go the other way and say, what happens if it doesn't have a hot tub, then it drops down below the average and below the projection we saw for the home on Buckeye. So the point being is that Airdna will give you, again, some high-level numbers, but in order to utilize it to accurately project the revenue for a specific property, you have to really drill down into the comps and make sure that you're pulling data that's relevant to the property that you're considering. I think that this property with the potential to have 2 units, and actually let me just jump back in here and look at that property again. So if we say 2-bed, 1-bath, 4 guests, right? That gives us that projection of 39,000, so pretty close to 40,000. We say, what about the downstairs? We rent that separately, and maybe we only accommodate 2 guests. We get 26,000 for that. So now we're at, call it 66 instead of the 48. So just simply by dividing the property up into 2 separate listings, you can increase revenue. Certainly 66,000 looks quite a bit better than the 48. So I think that the combination of the 3-bedroom, the 2-bedroom, the 1-bedroom, and playing with your booking windows, pricing, and availability You can definitely maximize the revenue for this property, and I think it could be a good option. So with that, let's just transition over to the home tour. You can get a sense of the property, how it sits on the lot, and whether this is a good option for you. I'm here at 42585 Buckeye. Great location in Yosemite Forks. And we'll just take a quick look at the house. The lot looks nice. You can see the shed and the carport. Yeah, just made aware of this property. I think what's interesting about it is that it's logically divisible into two units, a 1-1 and a 2-1. So even though it's a 3-2 house, we always look for that potential to improve the revenue, in particular in the off season. So we'll just step up. It's got a little chalet styling. We've got a friendly puppy there, and you can see the deck. So we'll just step into the entry. So you can see the slider out to the deck from this side. So you get a nice view through the trees into the living area.
Do you need the light on?
Yeah, any lights that you want to turn on would be great. We've got a full bath here with a little sit-down shower and bedroom up here. Got some carpet, which looks a bit worn. Another bedroom there. And I believe this might be, yes. So there's the inside stairway to the downstairs. We'll go check that out from the outside. We've got a little eating nook and the kitchen. Just got some nice granite counters. Cabinets look to be in decent shape, but a little worn. We've got the stone accents there. And then we can see this empties out on the side of the deck, which you can then go downstairs there. At this point, we'll go ahead and go down those internal stairs and see the downstairs space. Try not to trip myself. So here is the exterior door. So we've got a nice cozy living area down here. It looks like crawl space there. And a little kitchenette. And I suspect this might be the bathroom over here. As I said, the benefit to this home is both the price point and the fact that it lends itself to dividing into two units. So yeah, you can easily just rent the whole house as a 3-2. You've got the internal steps, but you can also lock that door and create two units. So there you go.